Hi, Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us to stay curious today with our special monthly guest from the National Space Society, Mr. Burt Dicht.
Hey,
How you,
Mark.
Burt? Always great to see
Same
you.
here. Good to see you. Great to
Yeah,
join you.
he's been coming on for about a year. And what is the National Space Society for
Uh,
those you don't know out
well, the
there?
National Space Society, or the NSS as we call it, is a space advocacy organization, and we are dedicated to creating a spacefaring civilization.
Well, and they're doing a good job at that. He's going to talk about uh, starting the next visit about the International
We've got
Space Development
we
Conference in
yes, we
Orlando.
have a lot coming up, and our ISDC, as it's called, the International Space Development Conference, is going to be in June at the Rosen Center.
And we're looking forward to that. He and I are going to be in charge of a panel there, as well as we're partnering at the American Space Museum with the National Space Society. Your chapter executive director, Gabriel Rothblatt, is our executive director here at the
Yes,
museum. And Gabriel and I were at a Museums of Brevard meeting, the mob,
the mob.
that concluded
Interesting.
less than an
Okay.
hour ago. And I drove like crazy through Merritt Island and down one, and and I was telling Bert when I got on here, this is my happy place every day. This is where I get an hour
This is a
to
lot of
really be
fun.
myself. And
Absolutely.
you're making a lot of fun. And Bert has got a hellacious top stories, space stories of 2024 that you're going to enjoy, and maybe comment about your own top stories there at the end if you don't see his on there. Let me
Absolutely.
put up my uh, let's put that up there. That didn't do the way I wanted it to. There we are, live. Oh, that's high definition from space station. Oh,
Oh,
there's.
okay.
Uh, we will get me up here live and you, Bert. Meanwhile, we're going to tell everybody while I'm fumbling around here with our YouTube. Time to give donations. You guys take donations, of course.
Absolutely.
We're a 501c3 in Florida that needs a lot of help. And you can go to our website. There's a yellow button up there that says donate and make all the arrangements there. Get your tax deductible donation from a 501c3 that we are. So, this backdrop screen here is one of your top stories of the year.
Yes, the Polaris Dawn mission with Jared Isaacman, another private space flight, and the first private spacewalk.
Yeah, and that's got to be one of the pictures of the year for sure. We've seen many spacewalks, but I watched this live. I was completely mesmerized, weren't you?
It's, well, just their altitude also. They're about
Yeah,
870 miles up. So the perspective of the Earth and just seeing him move around just like that. But the other factor too is, remember, the Dragon doesn't have an airlock.
yes,
So all of the crew members had to be in spacesuits when he did this.
yes. They call that an internal uh, vehicular
Yes,
vehicle activity, IVA, I think. So yes, since the first days of Gemini, never been that high without an Apollo spacecraft going to the moon, and the fact that three other people were exposed to raw space, which you think about them, Bert, but I was also thinking about the electronics, the physical things inside the cabin that, how hot electronics get, and they need to be cooled, and
right.
so there was a lot of factors that went into
A
that.
lot of planning.
That's right. I want to say hi to my daughter Jessica and my granddaughters McKinley. Hi, Bop and Macy, and they're watching. Steve Jokim's watching from Fox Lake, Illinois. You watch all the time, I know, so you see
Yes.
these names. Dave Stangy's up there from a very cold Michigan with little Mia. So Marty Winkle, hello to you, sir. How are you today?
I'm good, Mark. How are you?
Great. We've got three toddlers I know of, three children under 3 years old watching the show today.
Oh,
Those are some smart kids, don't you think? He's
future
laughing. Yeah, in there.
future space engineers.
That's right. Gary Gerald's up there, probably planting them Bedelia onion seeds. And Man Space, which is Mitch Rothman, who you know, Mitch.
Yes.
Mitch says hi, Bert, Marty, and Mark. And Tommy Usiak's on there. Good
Oh,
to
hey
see you,
Tom.
Tommy. Stoked that fire up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Dean Babcock's on board from Decatur, Illinois. So thank you for watching, Dean. Uh, we want to. There's Burt. There's the beautiful meme I put together for you. Space stories for this year. But one of the stories 52 years ago was these guys orbiting the moon. Have you been following it on Apollo 17 live?
No, I haven't. I haven't. I should do that. I remember it very well.
And what do you remember about it?
Well, I remember I became interested in the space program because of Apollo. So I watched and listened and did everything I could. Oh, with watching these launches.
And you drank
Oh,
some Tang.
and some Tang.
We're gonna toast the guys here. All right, let's toast it with
There we go.
with us there the old Tang toast
Tang.
to the last time we visited the moon, 52
Very good.
years
Absolutely. To Apollo 17.
ago.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Thank you. And I'll let you hold $20 for telling me that. But yes, we got to celebrate that. We did that yesterday with the great guy Daryl Higginbotham.
Yes.
You said you watched the man
Yes,
who
I did.
designed the hold down clamps on the.
I just thought about it, when you're asked to do this design. He said, "Okay, we need someone to design the system that's going to hold down a Saturn V rocket that's producing 7.5 million pounds of thrust." And
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, I could do that.
And everything's got to be released at the exact same millisecond.
Everything,
and,
yes.
and all that stuff. And well, that's got Marty and I looking at what physically was part of that Saturn V down at the bottom to hold it down. So we'll address that tomorrow, Marty. We got a free Friday. You send me your pictures that you took out there. I'll do a little more research on it. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I'm going to send the pictures that I took today to Daryl and see what he says. Is that actually
Okay. Yeah.
the thing?
Yeah, right. We think there's something that is like welded to the bottom that's got a hole in it that has the lockdown thing on there. But Daryl indicated it was more of an impression inside the body of the Saturn V.
Yeah, like you'll see in the picture, it's yellow, and yellow usually means, excuse me, GSC.
Uh-huh.
So it's not part of the vehicle.
Guidance and navigation.
Oh, ground
No,
support
ground
equipment.
support.
Oh,
equipment.
ground support.
Yeah, ground support
GSC,
equipment.
ground
Yep.
support. Oh, that might have been only on there to take it on the crawler out, for example.
Well, I think it was used to move the Saturn V to the Saturn V facility.
Yeah, there
That's
you
what
go.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we'll get to the bottom of that a little bit. You guys do some research there. Steve Jokums probably will dig into that. Yep, my daughter's saying Macy will be on the ground, and yeah, McKinley will definitely be in space. That 3-year-old granddaughter, she's
Okay.
ready to go now, I think, on there.
Very good.
Carlton Bailey says hi to you.
Hey, Carlton.
And let's kick this off a little bit with the Tang Toast.
Yeah.
The guys are on the moon. There is a sketch that Paul Calley did on during the night launch with his family in a station wagon.
I saw.
Including
I saw
Chris.
Chris mentioning that they
Yeah.
were just watching it from their car.
That's out of
And-
his dad's sketchbook
yes.
there. And
Just
it's hard.
amazing.
It's hard to represent the dark like that. He must have used a charcoal type of thing there. But there's where you can see Apollo 17 in real time. So they just started their camp out yesterday afternoon. They landed at about 2:45 in the afternoon. The guys were sleeping at about about 11:30 when I checked it today. You hit that now button and you'll see videos, pictures they took, and their
Right.
comments as they're taking the picture, like of the orange soil when that comes up on the third day. They'll actually be showing the pictures that Schmidt was taking while he's talking about that orange soil that was a volcanic vent that had like glass beads in it.
Right. I've had a chance to meet both Harrison Schmidt and Gene Cernan.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
And comment about them then. Where
Yes.
at?
Gene Cernan I met multiple times at Astronaut Scholarship Foundation events, that type of thing. And I actually saw him give a great talk. He was just talking about what it took to fly to the moon. And he was commenting on Neil Armstrong. He said that every astronaut was trained to do what Neil Armstrong did that first time, to land on the moon just like that. But he also said, but he couldn't have thought of a better person than Neil Armstrong to be the first. There was just the type of person he was. So that was really amazing to hear him talk about that.
The last guy talking
Yeah, the
about
first-
the first guy.
Yeah, both from Purdue.
Yeah.
The first and last went to Purdue.
Boiler up.
Yep. And I met Harrison Schmidt at an event at the Cosmosphere. I can't remember. It was a few years ago.
In Hutchinson, Kansas.
Hutchinson, Kansas. Yes. And so he is the 10th moonwalker that I met.
Oh, wow.
So I mentioned that to him. Got a picture with him. So that was really good.
Yeah. And so you may have seen the Stay Curious I did about my personal 3 days with him, and then a couple conferences that he
Right.
was at the University of Tennessee. I was gonna what you said something about Harrison. Escaped me.
Oh.
I was gonna. Of course, he's 89 years old.
Yeah, former senator, was a U.S.
Yeah.
senator. If you've seen the Tom Hanks show From the Earth to the Moon, they did a special episode on training the astronauts for in geology, and it talked about what they did for the Apollo 15 astronauts.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought in one of his professors to help do that, and it's one of the best episodes of TV. You might think, well, because what they're trying to convey to the astronauts is they're observing the moonscape,
Yeah.
and looking at it as an observer, and just a great episode. So I was fascinated by that.
I'll check that out. I wonder if
Yeah.
that was Larry Taylor from University of Tennessee that was in there, or Phil Silver.
I
The
can't
Silver
remember the
guy
name.
was
Yeah,
another early geologist
Yes.
there. But I know I was thinking of my friend. You've met 10
10.
of the 12
I met 10 or 12.
moonwalkers?
Yes, I met 10 or
So
12.
who haven't you
I
met?
did not meet Jim Irwin.
Okay, he
Okay,
passed away.
passed
unfortunately.
away,
The first
and-
one that died too.
Yeah, and
Age 59 of a heart
and
attack.
I never met my favorite astronaut, John Young.
Oh.
So I was at the STS-9 landing, but I was a good distance away, so I can't really say I met him. I've got some pictures of him, but never met him in person. Meeting, to me, I've got a standard. You have to shake their hand or get a picture with them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So 10 of the 12.
I stood behind Buzz Aldrin at an astronaut memorial at the Mirror,
Okay.
and I don't really count that.
You don't count
That's-
that. That's right.
That was close to stalking him at the time. He said, "Man, I thought you were taller than that." I know some of them were tiny, but he was anyway. Mitch says the 50th anniversary of Apollo 17 he hosted at the Cosmosphere in December 2 years ago.
Maybe that's where it was.
Yeah.
That might have been where it was. I saw where I met him. Yes.
And
Yes.
and Doug Forrest says hello to y'all. I went down Forest Boulevard in Cocoa Village. Marty knows where that is to get here quicker, to get over to 1. I always think of you, Doug, because they spell it with 2 R's also. Well, Apollo 17, there's Gino, and we're going to do kind of a show on that tomorrow.
Great.
Bring the hoaxers out. I'll take you on with gusto, okay? I like showing unusual pictures of the surface of the moon that you can see on Flickr.
Right.
All right, the archive.
Yes.
Archive
Everything's
on Flickr
available. Yes.
everything is right there. It's like scanned transparencies. They scan the film, and you see the magazines off the Hasselblads, they call them, the magazine rolls. And I harvested some of those. I've got a story that I found about. Did you know 17 was the only one to bring back their suits and their boots? Not their suits, their boots.
Oh, really? Okay.
The boots. Yeah, they all threw the boots out.
Right.
But because Gene brought back his boots, and I think Schmidt brought back his, analyzing these boots and how they reacted for 3 days on the moon.
Right.
All right, in the rough desert of Texas or Arizona, or think about it. It's nothing's soft or fluffy about it. They found out some things that happened to the boots. It's with microscopes, even looking at stuff. And the fibers and stuff to help us understand how to make better boots.
Exactly.
So we'll share
Great-
that with
great
you
stuff.
tomorrow. Stay curious. Marty's got a trivia question.
When the Apollo astronauts passed behind the moon, how long were they out of radio contact with Earth?
Okay.
Simple question.
It's a simple question, and I suppose they were probably in radio contact the same time frame.
As you're
And I'm
orbiting the
thinking
moon.
it's a 2-hour orbit around the moon. So I'm going to be inclined, and I really don't know the answer, but I'm going to guess like 55 minutes.
Okay.
What's your guess?
I'm going to say about 35.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, well, we'll let you all guess on there.
Okay.
Okay. William Whiting says hello. Hello to your,
And what
your
are
wife.
the prizes if we win, Mark?
We got
No one got the answer.
Yeah.
That's actually
a subscription to this magazine right
oh,
here.
at
okay?
our
At
magazine.
Astro. See,
Okay.
I'm promoting you, brother.
Yes.
I got you right handed.
Very good.
Got all my props right
Our
over
next
here.
issue's coming out shortly, so we're looking
Good.
forward to
So
that.
we got to get Rod Pyle on here one day.
Rod has
Get some-
agreed to do it, so we'll
Good.
work on that.
He's the editor and a super influencer out there who I've never met or talked to, but seen his podcast a few times on there. And we've talked about Burt and NSS and things they do. We'll reprise that maybe at the end here because we want to get.
Yes.
So how long are they out of radio contact from Earth? Dean Babcock's jumping in there at 45 minutes, Marty. And hello, Mia. Little Mia, this is her grandpa's tree up in Michigan,
Nice, look at
Macomb,
that.
Michigan. Dave Stange, our #1 fan, tied for #1 with a couple of you out there. Dave, I think he said he's got 6 Christmas trees in his house. Him
Wow.
and his wife Julia. You met them at the Friday night soiree of Shuttlefest 3, I believe. If you came up to
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, that he was up there.
Very.
So
I-
he sent
Oh,
me
that's nice there.
he sent me a bunch of pictures of his decor there on his space tree. I'll show you a few there.
Nice Mercury redstone.
That is a nice Mercury redstone. And he's got your
Oh, look at all the
command
astronauts there.
module and astronauts and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Mia, that's your grandpa's tree. Go in there and mail me that command module there, Mia.
Yeah,
I need
looks
that
great.
for my tree. All right. We also wanted to give a shout out to Jim Lewis, who's a supporter of our museum. He's doing a documentary on this man, Martin
Martin
Caden.
Caden. Okay.
Tell us who Martin Caden is.
Martin
I know.
Caden. He was actually a World War II pilot. Is that not right? I believe. And
Yep.
and he started writing books about aviation, and of course he wrote Marooned, and the book that was based on the book that became the $6 Million Man.
Yep.
Cyborg. I think it was called Cyborg.
That's right. Jim's doing a
Yes.
documentary and asking for financial support. So there it is from us.
Yeah, that's a great. I'd love to hear his story.
Give us he has given a generous percentage of the donation to us.
Oh, okay.
So we've helped him do this, and that's why there's 6 million good reasons to help us. He brought the $6 million man into existence through this book Cyborg, and but his Maroon was turned into a movie with Gregory Peck.
I really like that movie. I know
and
a lot of people.
Gene Hackman
yeah.
was in it, and
Yep.
Francisco, and who was the third actor in there? But Jim, thank you for helping us this way.
Absolutely.
We got Cliff Watson says hi, Burt, and good morning to you guys.
Hello there.
About 5 times. Marty's when he looks up, pushing that button. Carlton Bailey said he met all the moonwalkers except Neil and David Scott.
Oh, so he's met at 10 as well. Okay.
Free in public, not at a space fest. So he's talking about just meeting them out there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Steve Jokums comes in at 45 minutes with Dean Babcock there. How many minutes were they out of communication? The command module, and then of course the lunar module, command module, going around the moon. Either one of them there. So, happy birthday quickly, because we want to get to Burt's top stories of 2024. Steve Hawley is 73 years old today. He's a professional astronomer before he was an astronaut, born December 12th, 1951 in Ottawa, Kansas. Considers Salina his hometown. Boy, is he a Jayhawk from Kansas. Always a great basketball team. You said you met him.
I've met him a few times, yes. Got a picture with him,
What
got an
kind of
autograph.
demeanor does he give in public?
Oh, he was really nice and easy to talk to.
Uh-huh.
Most of the astronauts are.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
But I found him to be...
Is he tall?
no.
Okay.
No.
He struck me as being tall. He was married to Sally
He
Ride
was married
for
to Sally
a few
Ride.
years.
Yeah.
32 Days in Space. 41D with Judy Resnick, and our friend Charlie Walker Marty flew with him. Um, and he did things to upgrade the Hubble. He didn't do his spacewalks, but he's a lead payload bay guy on the Chandra telescope. So he flew with our Shuttlefest astronaut Eileen Collins.
Yep.
And so happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday,
73
Steve.
years
Yeah.
old. 70's the new 40. Did you know that?
Okay, so I'll be 40 soon.
Oh my God.
5 more
Marty.
years. 5 more years. I'll be 40 again.
Yeah, right. This is Ken Ham. Ken Ham has his 60th birthday today. Big 6-0. Ken Hawk Ham, imagine having that nickname with the Hawk Ham. Born December 12th, 1964 in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Okay.
The Navy captain, was pilot of STS-124 and then commander 8 missions later of STS-132. And usually
Never
you
met
have to
him.
be a pilot twice before you're a commander, but then again, a lot of people were resigning, and he just may have come into that fate. To see 132 was the delivering the Russian-built research module up
Oh,
there.
for this International Space Station?
Yeah, the International Space Station. So he also took up a cool mission, the Kibo Japanese module. So great guy. There he is in the cupola,
Ah, very good.
which wasn't up there on 124, but because Kay Heyer was one of the astronauts on 130 that took it up there. And there he is on 132. So hope he's enjoying
Happy
his
birthday.
60s there, Ken Ham. All right, take it away, my friend. Tell me when to push the magic button.
Well, when we talked about what to present this time around, I thought it might be good to just recap the year, and didn't do it as a top 10. It's more of a chronological recap. So that's what I'm going to focus in on. But if you go to the next slide, at first I just want to cover, we had a big event at the Kennedy Space Center at the beginning of November. It's called our Space Settlement Summit. We do it every year, and it brings together the movers and shakers around space settlement, where we have in-depth discussions. It's not just people lecturing. It's we actually break into groups and have discussions around key issues. So we had a great group of speakers, including Chris Ferguson came.
Astronaut,
and
last commander.
Yes, and also Jenna Petro, the director of the Kennedy Space Center, was there. So if you go to the next slide, I've just put some pictures together of all of us. So there's the group are outside the Center for Space Education. Then Jenna Petro stopped by our office.
Yeah,
and
there she is with Jennifer and Gabriel.
Gabriel, yep. And that was really great having her come into the office. Then the next day, well, after our board meeting, we went out to the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, a few of the leadership. So we took a tour of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, which was a lot of fun. And then a few of us got together and we met John Zarella at Zarella's.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a real fun weekend.
That's awesome.
A lot of space that we covered.
And then with good gastronomy.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Everyone's crowded around that. In fact, I just took a beautiful picture of the Redstone rocket in front of the badging station.
Yep. That one's at the Launch Complex 5.
Okay.
On Cape Canaveral. Yep.
Right. They look so small, don't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's when people don't realize that the escape tower on the Saturn V was more powerful than the Redstone rocket.
It could have suborbital somebody, yeah.
So as I said, I've tried to put together some different aspects of what happened in space 2024, and it was a pretty active year. So there were 242 launches, you can see. 236 were
2 weeks
successful.
left. We got 2
Yeah,
weeks left.
and there's going to be some more.
Yeah.
There's going to be some more. 88 launches from the Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, but there are a few more scheduled. And of course, SpaceX dominates. 129 rockets in 2024, 123 Falcon 9s, 2 Falcon Heavies, and 4 Starships. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That they have more than half of all the launches worldwide.
Yeah.
It's incredible. 72 countries now have sanctioned space programs, which is really impressive. There were a lot of first flights of new rockets in 2024. Most of them were Chinese, but of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Vulcan as well. And
9 first flights I just
yeah,
counted.
a lot
there,
of first
including
flights.
the important Vulcan,
Yeah.
Centaur.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then, of course, you have Senegal launched their first satellite. So that's a big thing. And then 2 countries actually, for the first time, had their astronauts in space, including Turkey, which we'll talk about Axiom 3. That astronaut was from Turkey there. So
And
really,
a woman from Belarus.
Yeah.
How you say that?
Belarus.
Belarus.
Yep.
Belarus. That was a lady went to space for that.
So really active year. So everybody, it's not a top 10. What we'll be doing is just going through some of the big events that were chronological as we go through the year. So should we get right into it, Mark?
Yeah, let's go, buddy.
Okay. So the beginning of January last year, of course, the Vulcan rocket, and what you're seeing here is the Vulcan being moved out to its launch pad from that vertical integration facility at launch pad 41. So I remember we were all out there watching it, and people were commenting on the new rocket, and I made a comment just offhand, and I said it even has that new rocket smell. So everybody laughed. They thought that was great. So brand new rocket, and of course, first time launch. It uses the BE-4 engines from Blue Origin.
All right.
And this rocket will replace the Atlas V and the Delta IV Heavy. So the next slide is the actual launch. And this was, you think for the first launch, there's going to be delays, there are going to be issues. It was a perfect countdown.
Yeah,
I
remember.
And went off right on time. And just spectacular. So one of the things that the Vulcan carried a payload from Astrobotic, their company in Pittsburgh, and it was the Peregrine lunar lander.
Yes.
So it was a private company that was going to put a lunar lander on the moon, but it had some thrust issues while in orbit, and it never made it. So I know they were disappointed.
Yeah, that was a big disappointment.
So
that's the story in itself this year. Did you take that picture?
I took that picture.
All right.
Yes, I took that picture. Most of the pictures in here of launches and things like that are mine, but I did get a few that are not.
It's hard to shoot this picture at night because the brightness, but you compromise. So
everyone loves night launches, but I like to see the rocket.
Yeah.
But you can see it when it lifts off, but once it starts climbing, all you see is exhaust.
Well, next story is a good one.
Yep. So what is that? I have to remember the name of it. This is from the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, and this is called the SLIM. It is the Smart Lander for Investigating the Moon. Great acronym. This actually launched in October, went into orbit around the moon on actually December 25th, and it landed on the moon in, January 5th. So Japan became the 5th country to successfully land a craft on the moon. It was a soft landing. Unfortunately, the problem was its its solar panels were oriented in the wrong way, and so it was running out of power. So it's only designed to function for a few hours, but this picture was taken by one of the rovers that was on board. So rover moved away and was able to take this beautiful picture. So again, it's really impressive. You think, I know we've been to the moon, but anytime anyone can put something on the moon, it's just really exciting.
And this is the size of a refrigerator.
Yes.
Okay, a little bit taller than that. But above my head is that's the landing leg. Okay, now you see exhaust on the right, so they must have exhausted it and flipped it around.
It tipped. It's
because
slightly
that's the
tipped
landing
over.
leg, and I point that out because what do the landing legs look like on LEM 12 on the moon right now? 52 years ago, and Surveyor, they're way outside the body of the bus of the. spacecraft,
And
and I'll bet they go back to that profile because that's why it tipped over.
And we'll talk
It's too
about
rocky.
that with another effort to get something on the moon as well. So
All right.
uh,
Next up,
next up is well, are we missing one? Let's see. Let's see if it's there.
no, I've got the
We
got the
are.
Slim on the moon, and I got the launch of
Oh, you know what we're missing? Oh, it's later on. Okay, that's
all
no
right.
problem.
Axiom 3.
So this is the Axiom 3. The Axiom is a private company in Houston that leases the Falcon 9 Crew Dragon to send astronauts to the International Space Station. So this was the third mission of their third mission. They've got a group of astronauts, former astronauts, who act as the commander of these missions. And this was Michael.
Peggy Whiston.
Yeah, Peggy Whitson's
and
one. Michael.
Allegra Lopez.
yeah,
Lopez Allegra, L.A.
Yes. Yeah. So he was the commander of this mission. All of the astronauts on board, the private astronauts on board, they were all fighter pilots. As you can see the picture there. And as I said, one of them was from Turkey for the first time, an astronaut
Far
from
right
Turkey.
with the red
Yeah.
logo patch there. Star.
So
moon
they actually have planned out experiments when they're on at the space station. But you could say either they got lucky or maybe they didn't. But if you remember, there were storms in Florida
Right.
off the coast. So they actually spent almost an extra week on the space station. So
Yeah.
they spent 21 days in space altogether.
Lopez Allegra above me. I think a 3-time shuttle.
And yeah, he's a
person,
member of the
and,
Astronaut Hall of Fame. This
and-
was his second
Yeah.
flight on a SpaceX Dragon. So really interesting guy, absolutely.
and these are reusable spacecraft
yes.
dragons. All right.
So and the next one is coming up.
Have you
later
met
this-
him? Did you meet any of these
I-
astronauts? You met LA before?
I met him before, yes.
Yeah.
And actually, he was here at the Space Center a few weeks ago
Oh,
because
okay.
I was there was a
Oh
a
yes.
SpaceX launch, and I think he was putting something on display.
The flight suit that
The
he
flight suit,
wore.
yeah,
in
yeah.
space on there,
And I
yeah.
just happened to walk by, and I said hello. He was walking with a group of people, and as he walked by, I said hello.
Oh, okay.
So,
You never know who you're going to meet out there. Of course, Burt's
absolutely.
office
Now, many
is out
people
there.
probably wouldn't recognize an astronaut, but
No, they can be very incognito. I guarantee you that. All right, another
Okay.
story of.
So this is a great story, of course. This is Endeavor, and Endeavor there is wrapped in a ballistic blanket. What's happening there? What the California Science Center? This was back in January. If you recall, they had Endeavor on display, but they were able to get an external tank, 2 solid rocket boosters. So they actually stacked them. And this is going to be on display in a vertical position at their new space center there. So what was happening this weekend is this was where they were going to mate the space shuttle with the external tank and the solid rocket boosters. Now think about this. This never happened outside the vehicle assembly building. Okay. And they did it once at Vandenberg when they mated the Enterprise to do some pad tests there. So those are the only 2 places where this occurred. So you had to figure, how did they figure this out? Because it's been so long since a shuttle mission and since it was last done in 2011. So they did bring in a number of people who worked on stacking in the VAB to help guide them on this. But you can imagine the intricacy of doing this to not make sure you don't damage the orbiter. They were live streaming this, and I was watching it. They did it overnight, so it was done overnight to minimize any traffic, things like that. And it's really going to be an amazing display. They expect to build,
the building's
they're
being
building
shaped
it.
around
They
it
built
right
it
now.
around it.
Yeah.
Yes, they were building the
We've,
building around it. Exactly. And the building itself should be finished mid 2025. But then they have to get all the displays and everything. So it's probably sometime in late 2026 when it will open. So you can be sure I will be there to see
Road trip.
it. Definitely, everybody, if you
Put
want to
me
plan a
in.
road trip.
Yeah, count me in on that, because we can stay with Doug Forrest. Doug
There you
Forrest
go.
doesn't live too
I'm
far
sure
from
Doug
here,
would say
does he?
absolutely. Yes.
He's got a couch, I'm sure. Marty will stay at the Hilton, and I'll stay on the couch at Doug's over there. But Marty, we'd love to see that, wouldn't we? If it wasn't for Marty, I wouldn't have seen Discovery probably yet.
No, there you go.
We went there on a guy trip
Very
about
good.
3 years ago.
So that's going to be truly amazing.
Yeah.
And I did stop by in May when we were there for our International Space Development Conference, and I was watching them. They were getting closer and closer to closing the building up. So I believe it's already done.
All right.
Yeah.
Some space news. Oh, I know what this is about.
So this is cosmonaut Oleg Kononenko, and back in February, he broke the world record for the most time spent in space, which at that time had been 877 days, or 878 days. So he broke the record and stayed on board the space station for over another 230 days. Finally came back in September of 2023. I'm sorry, 2024. And his record now stands at 1,111 days in space on his 4 missions.
No kidding.
Incredible.
4 aces
Yes.
in
Well,
numerology
yeah, all
term-
ones. Yeah.
All ones.
Let's
Wow.
round it up a little.
That's easy to remember. Yeah, over 5 missions, I believe. Correct.
I think it was 4.
Okay,
Might have
all
been
right.
4. Yes. 4
Okay.
all long duration
And
missions.
he was commander 3 or
Yeah.
4 times too.
So incredible.
Yeah, it
over
is. It is.
1,000 days in space.
Yeah, and we'll see him. In fact, another picture because he's part of the record of
Oh yes.
of number in space.
Yes. Okay, so we were talking.
What month is this now?
This is February.
Okay.
So remember in February, Intuitive Machines was launching its own spacecraft to the moon,
Mm-hmm.
called the Nova C, or called it Odysseus.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my colleagues, and I'll show a picture of her, Chantel Beyer, she is a board member for National Space Society. She started, that's Chantel
right
there. She started her own company called For Space, and she actually developed the containers that held one of the payloads. Jeff Koons, who is an artist, was commissioned to do artwork, and his globes, their moon globes, are put in a container, and Chantel's company designed the container. So Chantel was here for the launch. This was in February. It was supposed to be.
Oh, that's
So this is the group. This is a group of students from Embry-Riddle,
Mm-hmm.
and Grace, who's there holding that little blue box. That's called the Eagle Cam. The graduate, the owner and founder of Intuitive Machines went to Embry-Riddle. He came back to Embry-Riddle and challenged the students. Would you like to design something for this mission? So they designed a camera called the Eagle Cam, that the intent was to eject this from the Odysseus as it's landing and take pictures of the spacecraft as it's landing on the moon. Okay, so this was all student designed, and really, so they're holding that, and you see Nicole Stott there.
There's Nikki right
Yeah,
there.
who's also a graduate of Embry-Riddle.
Yeah.
So we had Chantel was able to get some funding. We had a big party at the Hilton the night of the launch.
Yeah, I was there.
You were there, right?
That was a real big
That
party.
was a big party there,
Yeah.
as Winston Scott, the astronaut,
Yep,
was also
Winston
there.
was there.
So again, this is some of the student design team that created the Eagle Cam.
Yeah.
Now the launch was delayed one night.
Yeah.
So we came back the next night and saw the launch from the Apollo Saturn Center. And it just so exciting to be knowing someone that has a payload going to the moon.
Right there. She
So
is.
so we were celebrating afterward, and really exciting time for Chantel and her company.
Cool.
So there's Intuitive Machines Odysseus on its way to the moon now.
Does have some profile
yeah,
landing legs
yeah.
spread out there, but that still wasn't enough.
It still wasn't enough. It still
Yeah.
wasn't enough. But think about this, Mark. This company didn't exist, in 2013, and they're sending a spacecraft to the moon.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they ran into some problems in orbit, but their flight control team was able to make use of a NASA experiment that was on board, a LiDAR system, to help guide them down. But they didn't have all of the guidance systems to help them. And because of that, when it landed, it also tipped over about 30 degrees. And so that, of course, impacted the solar panels, just like Slim. But everything else was working, but because of that, eventually it died out much sooner than they anticipated. They weren't able to get the power to the spacecraft.
Solar panel was
Yes.
in the wrong direction.
Wrong
too.
direction, and the part that got me a little upset, if you watched social media at the time, I'm celebrating this. A company
Yeah.
was able to soft land a vehicle on the moon that didn't even exist 10 years ago or 13 years ago. But people were saying, they're failures on social media. And
No.
and it was very disappointing to try to explain to people what it really took.
Well, they're spoiled with success, and the younger generation approaches it as a video game. I think, Bert.
Yeah.
And but there was a lot of things that come out of that. Nicole Stott's husband, Chris,
He had
a hard drive on the moon, the
that-
first hard drive.
Yeah, he was.
That they
It
they
was on
sent-
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sent back the Constitution from the moon, and from
Yeah.
the Earth they sent the Bill of Rights.
Oh,
Is
right.
what they wanted to do to prove you could do that and
Right.
store your family photos on the moon.
Absolutely.
Is what that's all about.
No, it was, but I still think an incredible accomplishment.
Absolutely.
They learned a lot.
The first time.
Yeah, the first time, and they're scheduled to launch again sometime early in 2025.
How many times did NASA miss hitting the moon? All right, and then the Ranger kamikaze camera system to investigate what the moon's surface looked like as it crashed. The first 6 of those failed and had a government inquiry. Why? So, but it's today with micromineralization and so forth, and well, like I said, they kind of spoiled with the
Yes.
with the
I think that's the interesting aspect.
video aspect.
But that's the interesting aspect of SpaceX is that it's okay to fail. You learn from that.
Yeah.
And as we as engineers, the engineering design process is a critical aspect of that, where you try something, if it doesn't succeed, you learn from it and do it again.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to their next launch.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know they're going to learn.
Absolutely.
Intuitive Machines, a startup outside of Houston.
Yes.
And like I said, they're going to send other payloads. They had a NASA payload on board.
Yep.
So we've got another. We're talking with Burt Dicht here. Burt is not only a friend of the museum, but he's managing director of the National Space Society. You see there. And what's next?
Well, next we're moving into March now, and this was the arrival out at the shuttle landing facility of the SpaceX Crew 8 that was going to go to the International Space Station. So as you know, they do two cruise changes a year, every 6 months. So this was Crew 8, and it's interesting. Jeanette Epps, who's one of the astronauts, we actually were able to talk with her at that the Moon Festival at Sands.
Yes,
that
Sands Space Museum.
Yeah, so it was great to hear. She taught, and especially was talking to the kids in the audience.
Yeah, thanks to Sean Graham.
Yes, that was really exciting.
Yeah.
So.
And then she talked to Gabriel Rothblatt, our executive director, on his birthday.
Oh,
Thanks
yes.
to, Sean
Okay.
arranged that. Sean and Jim Thomas, two movers and shakers here on the Space Coast.
Absolutely, a lot of great things there.
There's Mike Barrett is a second from this is a Russian on the left, and then Mike Barrett turned 65.
Oh, wow.
On space on this mission.
Yeah.
And who's the other?
Well, the cosmonaut Alexander Grebekin.
Okay.
Is the cosmonaut.
Who's the other gentleman?
Oh, that's Matthew Dominic.
Yeah, Dominic.
Yeah.
Matthew Dominic.
One thing I should have mentioned, and I didn't, because you mentioned about Sean. I really want to put a shout out for our Intuitive Machines event to Robert Katz from the World Innovation Network. Robert was very instrumental in helping us.
Yes.
And especially his connections there at Embry-Riddle. So
Yeah,
that,
thank you, Robert. for
yeah,
what
I
you
just want to
do
make
as
sure
a
I
Space
single
Coast
that Robert out
influencer.
for that. But that was the arrival when the crew arrived at the shuttle landing facility, and there's the a night launch
Hmm.
again of the Falcon 9 and SpaceX Dragon. Always fun to see a launch,
Yeah.
even though it's at night.
Yeah, yeah, you're just seeing the flames of
Yeah.
the engine, but the SpaceX launches at night have such a rhythm. Have you noticed how the flame changes color?
Oh
And
yes.
right before it goes from bright yellow to orange to almost a reddish orange, and then a very beautiful turquoise blue
Right.
before
Oh
that
yes.
first stage stops, and then you see nothing for about 30 seconds, about 10 seconds, 20
Yeah,
seconds,
the state
and
separation.
then
Yeah.
you see the second stage hit.
Yeah, but I like that picture. You can see the strong back
Hmm.
moved away from the rocket as it launches. So,
All right, next image is oh,
oh, yeah,
put my solar glasses on
yes.
here.
So this is now we're moving into April. So of course the big event was the total solar eclipse. That was on
Absolutely.
April 8th, and like a lot of people, I had plans to go to Dallas
Oh,
and see totality,
right.
but the weather forecasts were just terrible.
Yuri's Night was that weekend, and
Yeah, and
people in Austin were doing Yuri's
yeah,
Night, and
oh yeah, and I decided at the end not to do it, and decided to stay home. I know a lot of people made alternate plans at the last minute to try to go somewhere where they could see totality. But I just, I figured, well, I'll stay home. So that's a picture outside my place in Vieira. So it's 55%, obscuration, and that's what we saw here in Florida. Okay,
well,
we didn't see.
of course, I went to Findlay,
You
Ohio,
went to
my
Ohio. That's right.
hometown,
That's right.
where it all started for me with my mother, and my mother took that
That's
picture.
nice. Okay.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
outdid my cell phone, and mom was 91 years old. She just turned 92,
Fabulous.
and that's the Earth. That's the shadow right before the end of it. You see
Right.
the bright area is now towards Fort Wayne, Indiana,
Oh,
and the eclipse is over there, or Bedford, Indiana, where our
right.
friend Charlie Walker was in
Oh,
Bedford,
right.
Indiana,
Right.
up there. So, mom, excellent photograph there. Sally.
Yeah. So the
Sally
next,
Jane McKinley Marquette took that picture. And,
very
God
good.
bless my mom.
Fortunately, the next total solar eclipse in the U.S. is not until 2044. So, and then even then, it's only covers I think 3 states.
Yeah.
So I think if we want to see the next one, you can go to Europe in 2026,
There's one
Spain
or
or
two a
Portugal.
year. There's
Yeah,
eclipse
yeah,
chasers that have
yeah.
seen ungodly amounts, and you get hooked on it, particularly when you got expendable income to jump
It's-
on a plane and be
Wish
on
I had that. Yes.
You can always be on the ocean somewhere on a cruise and see them too a couple times during the year. So
Okay.
that was the second eclipse in America in 7 years. Quite unique. 2017, and
Oh yes.
went through some of the same areas. So
Yep.
that's a great one. Thanks for including that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we got another.
Okay. This is this is not my best picture. I took it from the Apollo Saturn Center. And this is the last launch of the Delta IV Heavy.
Oh,
Okay, so this was April
yeah. I
9th.
wish you had the sideways profile.
Yeah,
of
you
the
can't
silos
you
there.
can't really see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really see the full profile of the rocket. The 16th flight of the Delta IV, and it closes out 6 decades of Delta rockets flying.
Wow.
Very impressive. So this one carried a National Reconnaissance Office payload. So of course that was secret. But I wanted to see it. It's the first launch of a Delta IV. It's just added into my launch portfolio to see that. But the last one.
Couple comments there before we get away from it.
Yep.
Steve Jokum says he saw 4 minutes of totality in Erie, Pennsylvania. Would you see Erie, Pennsylvania this morning? They got 4 feet of snow, something like that. Yeah, they got dumped on. And Dean Babcock watched it from DuQuoin, Illinois.
Very
And
good.
that had to be fun. So, continuing looking at the year 2025 in our rearview mirror with Burt Dicht here. Burt, I know what that is. That is a Blue Origin New Shepard.
That's right. If you remember, they were grounded for a while because one of their uncrewed launches had a malfunction, and the capsule, was pulled away from the rockets. Landed safely. If people had been in it, it would have been fine. They would have been fine, but they wanted to figure out what happened. So they got back to flying again. This is they're called their NS-25 mission. This was on 19 May, and I think they've done three more flights since then. This year.
Well, no,
was it two?
Well, anyway,
they've done several more
month ago.
Yeah, they did one a few. I think there was one more before that, so they might have done two more in 2020. In 2024. So, but they're back to flying, and would still love to get a ride. So if anyone's out there who can make that happen, let me know.
They're Karmanauts. They crossed the Karman line. Marty adopted the frame.
Karman,
the nomenclature Karmanauts.
Yep.
They're not astronauts. 620 humans have orbited the Earth, and 80 women have orbited the Earth. We'll catch up with that here in a second. Beautiful shot. Love the little yucca plant.
Would love to go out there and actually see one of those launches. That is not my photo.
and they land not too far away from that.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so now we're moving into
Here's the controversy of the year.
Well, I don't know how this is the Starship.
Yes.
The Boeing Starship. I'm sorry, Starliner. Starliner. The CST-100. The Boeing Starliner. So this is it rolling. It's rolling out to the pad.
Nice photo.
For its first crewed mission, with Sonny Williams and of course Butch Wilmore. So this was the rollout. It was really exciting to be there for that. And there they are at the crew walkout as they're getting ready to go to the rocket. It was the first crewed launch from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station since Apollo 7. Right? And once Apollo 8 started, everything was at Kennedy Space Center 39A and 39B for crewed launches.
And the Atlas rocket.
Oh, yeah. The first flight of an Atlas in a while with, since John Glenn, too. Since
since Gordon Cooper.
Yeah, Gordon Cooper, since the Mercury.
Mercury astronauts.
To carry astronauts. Yes. Yeah. So pretty exciting. And
they had a couple scrubs, too.
Yes, they did.
But,
they finally got the launch. And looked pretty good. Again, it was daytime, so that was pretty good. Of course, we know what happened.
Yeah.
We know the helium leaks and thruster problems with it. That it eventually came back down without the astronauts, as NASA made a decision to have the astronauts stay on board. And now they've been on board the space station, believe it or not, for 6 months.
Yeah.
That was in June. That was the beginning of June. So
coming back probably the first week of March. Right?
Coming right now it's scheduled for sometime in February.
Okay.
Yeah, sometime in February. So it'll be when Crew 10 is ready to launch.
We'll add up the days that Butch and Sonny have been in space up there.
It's supposed to be a week, and now they've been there 6 months.
Yeah, 8 days. Sonny calls it her happy place. Butch says, "Gee, I miss my grandma's birthday and Thanksgiving and." Whatever. He's got a wife and 2 daughters.
Yes. Well, they didn't plan on being up there that long, but they were prepared for it.
Well, you could say they're good sports and good company, but they're doing what they dreamed was testing a spacecraft.
Absolutely.
A new spacecraft. Kay Heyer told me, astronaut Kay Heyer, over a lunch that she said this Starliner was like testing the STS-1 Columbia for the first time. It was that that type of historic.
You think about, too, that SpaceX, everyone talks about the Dragon. Remember, there was a cargo Dragon that came before the Crew Dragon.
Yeah.
And, of course, SpaceX could work things out with that, and then add what they needed to put a crew in.
Yeah, good point.
Boeing did not have that advantage.
Good point.
Right? So, but the capsule came back safe, and we hope we'll see another launch coming up soon as NASA makes a determination on it.
Well, I got some Boeing stock I'll put with that coal in your stocking. Okay. My comment only. Don't jump on me. My personal
not a position of the National Space Society.
There we go. or the American Space Museum. Now there's something that's interesting.
Yeah, that is the Chang'e 6. That was another spacecraft that landed on the moon this year. This was launched by China, and this one landed on the far side of the moon. And what was unique
The
about
back
this,
of the moon.
yeah, it was now again, just like with the Slim, they had rovers, so the rover pulled away and was able to take a picture of the spacecraft. What was incredible about this is they scooped up some moon soil, about 2 kilograms of it, and there was an ascent module on this that launched it and brought it back to Earth. So then go to the next slide.
Almost 5 pounds.
Yeah.
They brought back.
Yeah.
Got to note the red is the Chinese national flag. That they did you read about that they made it of like metal fibers so that it wouldn't fade and it would last forever and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And that's the scoop. The arm is the scoop that picked up the
And
samples.
really great accomplishments. That
yeah.
was their sixth.
I think it involved 5
Yeah.
vehicles.
Yeah.
An orbiter, a lander with 2 parts, and then the orbiter had another part that went to Earth with the reentry capsule.
Yeah, there's the reentry capsule, and came back in
Incredible.
it came back in
The
June.
moon is inside
Yep.
of that.
So-
The south pole of the back side of the moon. Yeah.
And I know China has given some of the samples out to other scientists around the world, from what I understand.
Uh-huh.
So very
Another-
good. So let's move back to the U.S. And there's, of course, is a Falcon Heavy. And that same month in June, got to see the launch of the GOES-U. Remember, the GOES is a weather satellite, the Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite, launched by NOAA. So, and what was fun about this launch, and I shared a little bit about this in a previous visit with you, we were waiting a weather delay. So they were launching a weather satellite, and they threaded a weather needle. They got it off just in time before the weather conditions deteriorated. So that was pretty good to see that, and always great to see a Falcon Heavy launch.
Oh,
as
it is.
well.
It is. Particularly when they come back to the land.
Yes.
The 2 cores landed at the Zone 1 out there, and
not a great spot to catch it from. This is from the media site.
yeah.
So the trees block it, and
I figured out the
Yeah.
best site. I was out at the port, and there at the new cruise port there,
Oh,
where the
really?
Oasis
Yep.
is. That's right there where it
right
lands.
there. Oh, good
That's a
spot.
Holiday Inn Express.
Oh, that's
The
good to know.
manager was telling me that he goes, it's just right there across on the where they
Oh,
land,
okay.
and a lot of people show up for that at the fishing area.
That
there,
is good to
in
know.
there. Yeah. All right.
Okay, let's move on.
There's the launch of
There,
that,
yeah. So also a first launch in 2024 of the European Space Agency's Ariane 6.
Oh.
So they retired the Ariane 5. This is a much improved rocket to try to compete. Again, it's not reusable, but it's a heavy lift rocket. So that was the first launch. Everything worked great. They deployed their payloads, but there was supposed to be a third firing of the upper stage to redirect the upper stage to come back to Earth, and it didn't ignite. So they're considered it a partial success.
Well, the last Arians put the Webb telescope in space. on
that is
Christmas
correct.
Day
That is correct.
2 years ago.
Yep, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
So first flight. Now these are not actual astronauts. These are analog astronauts. So they were part of what's called the Crew Health and Performance Exploration Analog. So they went into this test back in June of 2023, and they came out in July 6th, after 378 days
Really?
to
Over
simulate a
year.
Mars mission.
They got along good, it looks like.
yeah,
They're
yes.
so happy to get away from each other. They can.
378 days.
That says something.
The habitat they were in was completely built by, it was 3D printed
Where was it located?
in Houston.
Okay.
Yeah. Really exciting. They're all engineers and scientists. So they obviously did everything as a simulated mission. And I remember even talking about, reading about the that when you're, I never even thought about that. How do you get your, I don't have to worry about it, but how do you get your hair cut? So that's one of the things you have to do, right? When you're
Yeah.
spending that
Okay.
long a time. But they really did a great job simulating. I know Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator, singled them out for their contributions to help us get to long duration space flights.
Well, I
So
hope you're enjoying this recap of 2024 as I am with Burt Dick here. Burt, that's a great one to point out
Yep.
there.
Okay, and this is also still in July. And this is the arrival of the Artemis 2 core stage.
Show you it there.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it came from the Michaud facility outside of New Orleans on a barge and goes into the turn basin there at the Space Center, actually right outside the media center. And then they towed it to the vehicle assembly building. And I never would have thought something slow moving would be so exciting, but we were watching a moon rocket. So
Yeah.
it was a really exciting thing to see its arrival. And I know they just now, I saw something that they've just stacked it and put it into its, to get it ready to start putting other pieces together with it. But I know we'll talk a little bit more about Artemis at the end.
4 engines that put the
Yep.
space shuttle in
RS-25.
orbit right there. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and this is what we talked about at the beginning. This is the launch of Polaris Dawn. Again, Jared Isaacman, who many might remember, led the Inspiration 4 mission back in September 2022. So he has contracted with SpaceX to run these 3 Polaris Dawn missions to do different aspects and experiments with human spaceflight. And this was a very ambitious flight. We talked about it. It went up to 870 miles. And as you mentioned, Mark, the most since Apollo 17, the highest altitude since the crew came back from Apollo 17. And Jared Isaacman conducted the first private spacewalk. And you see the beautiful image of the Earth there and him doing the spacewalk. The challenge, and you could say maybe the risky aspect of this, was the Dragon doesn't have an airlock. So that means that all of the crew members of the Polaris Dawn, and there were 4 altogether, everyone had to be in a spacesuit as they depressurized the cabin to allow him to go out and do that spacewalk. So, and that picture is just amazing, I think.
Yeah, the Terminator's up there at the top of Earth. They actually
Yep.
went into the darkness when the other lady came out, Beth.
Yeah, there were two SpaceX engineers who were also on board as well.
Designed the suits.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Really a great accomplishment.
That's one of the pictures of 2024.
I think it's one of the great ones. Yes,
absolutely.
and we'll see what happens with him as far as becoming the new NASA administrator. That's kind of exciting.
Have you ever met Jared?
He was at our. This is why people need to come to our International Space Development Conference. He was at our ISDC in 2023 in Dallas, in Frisco, Texas, and he gave a great talk. I got a picture with him. He was very humble. I was just so impressed.
He's 41 years old.
Yeah, he's very low key about his accomplishments.
Yeah.
Talked about how he left school at the age of 16.
Yeah.
And started his own company.
Right. And that company does 1/3 of the billing for hotels.
Yeah.
And
incredible.
1/3 of the hotels and restaurants in America use his billing system. But we talked about that. He's a dropout at age 15.
Yeah.
Because he didn't like school.
He said he had this opportunity, so he was going to take it.
Yeah.
And
he
went back.
Married his elementary school sweetheart.
Oh.
They knew each other since elementary school.
And he's also an Embry-Riddle grad. He went back to school at Embry-Riddle.
I saw him at the Spacecom last January.
Yep.
Very, very connected with everybody. He didn't act pompous, didn't act smarter than anybody.
People came up, can we get a picture? He was so happy to do it. I was really impressed.
Talking Jared Isaacman there.
And just a really accomplished pilot. So You know,
Yeah, he's got his own squadron of.
yeah, they
uh,
actually train military
yeah.
pilots. Yeah,
Technically, they call it a stand-up EVA. He didn't leave this little area there, and probably for good reason. It was an experiment of what they were doing, and
right.
they didn't have any holds around the, you know, they need
Yeah,
a structure out there to get out there and walk around, sort of thing. But
still, you wanted to make sure they were safe.
that's
Absolutely.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's repeated by a woman. Forget her name. I ought to remember it, but great. That was a high moment of 2024 for sure.
Yep. So, what's the significance of all these mission patches? Well, that same time in September with Polaris Dawn, there was another Soyuz launch, the MS-26 launch. There was also the Chinese astronauts were in space, and then you had the Crew 8 that we talked about, and also the Soyuz MS-25 mission. So what happened on September 11th, 2024, is that there were 19 people in orbit. That set a new world record. The previous record was 17. So you get this additional slide here. So I think that's amazing. So 19 people weren't on the planet.
Yeah. Growing up a baby boomer, you'd think that'd be done that in the 80s
Yes,
or something,
yes.
you know, if we kept a steady pressure on things. But yeah, that's the record, 19 humans. It was 17. But this was pretty cool. Thanks
Absolutely.
for acknowledging that for
Yep.
sure. Today we have how many up there today?
I don't know how many are there right now.
7 on the
is it
space
7?
station and 3 Takio.
What
Yeah.
yeah, they're Takio
So there's 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 10. They in fact, there's a Kenyenko and Tracy Dyson Caldwell there. And she was lucky. She went up like 12 years after
Right.
her last flight.
Right.
And Don Pettit
Don
was up
Pettit.
there in the middle.
Yep.
MacGyver, Don Pettit up there. So
There we go. And of course, we talked a little bit about because of the Starliner shift that NASA made, that Butch and Sonny were going to be staying on board the space station and then come back with Crew 9. So because of that, NASA had to change Crew 9 and take off 2 of the astronauts. So Crew 9 only included 2 astronauts, the American Haig and the cosmonaut.
Russian, yeah.
Yeah. To leave space for Sonny and Butch.
Zena Cardman was going to be the commander. She was scratched.
Yes.
But Stephanie Wilson, who last flew on the shuttle, she also got scratched.
Yes.
And she was at the launch.
And I
Did
actually
you
met
get to
her.
talk to her?
I actually met her, got a picture with
Yeah,
her.
we talked about that
They were
last week.
they were both very helpful to the crew as
Mhm.
they prepared to have just 2 crew members on board.
Not
So
spoiled sports,
yeah.
but ready to
oh no, they were absolutely team players.
Mhm.
So
Marty's got a question for you. Burt?
Carlton Bailey's asking, how does Burt think all the layoffs with Boeing is going to affect, well, the Starliner and the Artemis program?
that's a good question. I know Boeing last week announced some layoffs, but it seemed like a small number. I know to anyone who's laid off, it's not small, but it seemed like a small number related to their overall workforce. So I've heard, we had Chris Ferguson talk at our, as I said, at our Space Settlement Summit, and he believes that Boeing is committed to the Starliner.
No,
Yeah.
Chris Ferguson was going to be the commander of the first Starliner.
Yeah.
And stepped down for
So
personal reasons.
he knows that there was some talk
Yeah.
of them selling it off, the space business, but he really believes that this new CEO that's taken over is committed to keeping Boeing in the space business.
It was an inaugural flight.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure they've realized a lot of things.
That's what that's why you do these tests.
You're an engineer
Yeah, that's
background
why
with jets, right?
Yeah.
And
That's why you do it. And but I think you
a lot
know,
of money. It's just sort of like you're in too deep. You
the
can't give up
the
now.
question, of course, with Artemis again, and the SLS, it's hard to predict.
Yeah. Nick Sedler agrees with you. He
Yeah.
thinks the Starliner's got a future, but Boeing needs to do better work, and
Yeah.
I think that's become apparent down the ranks there. We're winding
But
up our
there's
year
yeah,
here.
there's the launch, beautiful launch. Oh,
Yeah.
it was a nice day for it.
Yeah, that was a
uh,
gorgeous lunch. I do
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
There we go. And so
The
let's go
BMS.
into talk a little bit more about SpaceX. So this is the super
Got your
booster.
photo?
Well, that is not my photo.
Okay.
I'm going to do a
I
shout
didn't think
out.
you went out
I want to
there.
do a shout out to Richard Gallagher. I've met Richard at many of the launches. He's a tremendous photographer, like Tom and Mark and Carlton. So he goes out to see the Starship and Super Heavy launches. So this is his photo of the most recent launch. Well, not the launch in October, not the one in November. And what's so amazing about this was, of course, capturing the Super Heavy in the Mechazilla. And I just think that it was just
Mechazilla, listen to you. Carlton Bailey's got Fodzilla.
That's right. That's
Fozzie,
right. He's
yeah.
probably excited about
Mechazilla,
that.
that's what they called it, the
Yeah.
chopstick.
The chopsticks.
What a hell of a photo there.
So this is actually another photo from Richard. It's a composite of the Super Heavy coming down, and every year Aviation Week does its annual photo recap of the best photos in space, or I should say aerospace. And his got second place
Wow.
for the illustration, so that's why I've got it listed there.
What was first?
I don't remember what was first, but that is just a spectacular image. But it just showed how far ahead SpaceX is. I know they didn't land the last one, and it came down in the water because of there was some technical issue, but still so impressive. And for NSS, we have our space forums, and we had Eric Berger. I don't know if you're familiar with Eric. Eric is he works for Ars Space. Ars Technical.
I like Ars Technical.
Works for Ars Technical.
Yeah.
He's their space correspondent, and he wrote an
He's
initial.
very good.
He wrote it very good. He wrote an initial book called Liftoff, which talks about the creation of SpaceX, and he's got a new book out called Reentry, which talks about how SpaceX has redefined the space industry. And one of the things I asked him when we had him on the call was, how do they keep launching all these rockets so rapidly? I mean, 2 months later, they've got another one ready to go. And it's incredible. But he said they've set up their factory just for this, where they're producing these Raptor engines rapidly and producing the rockets. And it just separates them. And I know they're talking about another launch in January.
Yeah, the cadence is amazing.
It really is.
Keep up there.
Yep.
And quickly, the Mechazilla arms, what I've read, are actually communicating with the rocket, so the rocket is and they're ready to kind of cushion or move back, or
they can adjust.
There's some adjustment there, and I believe that's what was wrong, that they couldn't come back. There wasn't a clear communication between the
still incredible, just incredible. Yes. So amazing accomplishment.
Mechazilla and the BFR that we used to be called, big friggin' rocket.
Yes. So as we're closing out the year, this is also October. This was the another Falcon Heavy. This is the launch of Europa Clipper. This is the spacecraft that's going to be going to the icy moon of Jupiter.
Yeah. And
looking below that sheet of ice. So it's a 6-year mission. There it is in space as it's separated from the booster.
Amazing to see those shots.
Yes, yes. So it's a 6-year mission there, but it's going to be really exciting. It's an incredible spacecraft.
I threw a picture of Jupiter in there out of sequence.
Yeah.
To show you Jupiter, the red spot. This is a friend of mine's photo from his backyard, Jeff.
What kind of telescope is he using? Do you know?
I believe he's got a like a 4-inch refractor.
Okay.
On there, 3 of the 4 moons of Jupiter. This is Europa, the one above my shoulder. The one above my head is Callisto, and Ganymedes, the other one.
Very nice photograph.
You can see these moons are glow. Even in a backyard telescope, you can see their spheres.
Right.
But it's got all three of these moons are covered in ice, and below them is an ocean of
And
water.
NASA thinks there might be chances that the ingredients for life are in that ocean.
And that's where that's
Yep.
going.
Yep.
Is this star right? Is that one right above my shoulder there? You're right.
Right.
How do I know this? Because I looked it up. The laws of physics, you know where everything is.
Yes.
If you've got an ephemeris. So.
That's right.
All right, you got one
Okay.
of our old buddies here.
Yeah, so this is Voyager 1. Now, and this is not the actual Voyager 1, obviously an artist's concept of it. But Voyager 1 is about almost 16 billion miles from Earth.
Wow.
It takes 23 hours one way to communicate with Voyager. In October, they lost contact with Voyager. And they didn't know what was happening. They were trying to communicate. It had two transmitters, an X band and an S band. So they decided to try to reach it using the S band. And they were able to reestablish contact, and they've sent new software to it. So they hope this has the issue resolved, that they'll be able to remain in contact. But just an incredible story.
Launched in 1977. No,
Yes.
47 years, and they're
Incredible.
using something that hadn't been used in two
This
decades.
is old technology.
Yeah, I mean, they all, yeah, I don't know if they got a Tandy computer that they gotta send signals on or what,
But they were able to connect with it. And
well,
as,
we're winding up here. A couple
as we
great
close
news
out, I
stories,
know we're
yeah.
taking a little extra time, but I hope
But
everyone's
we love
enjoying it. But this is a PSLV-XL rocket, an Indian rocket. So this was a launch on the 5th of December, and it's launching the Prapa 3 mission. And what this is, it's a European Space Agency.
Is that it?
That's it right there. That's how it looks like. It's a European Space Agency satellite. There are actually two spacecrafts that are connected together. Okay. What they are going to do, and you as an amateur astronomer are going to like this, it's going to simulate a solar eclipse, the two spacecraft. So if you go to the next slide, one of the spacecraft they're going to separate. It's going to move 150 meters away. And the other spacecraft will cast a shadow.
Create their own eclipse.
They're going to create their own eclipse so they can do more studying of the impact of solar eclipses. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So again, this is a European Space Agency mission India has a great space program. So they use that Indian rocket to launch it.
And the solar corona, that's the atmosphere of the sun that you see
Yes.
emanating out from the moon blocking it. That's 1,000,000 degrees hot, but the surface of the sun is only 6,000 degrees hot, and they don't know why.
Interesting.
They really don't know
Maybe
why.
this will help
The
figure that
atmosphere
out.
is 1,000,000 degrees around the sun, but the surface is only 6,000,000. Now it gets hot as you know what inside the sun. But,
And I think we'll close out. We talked a little bit about Artemis, that NASA just announced that they're actually delaying the second Artemis mission until
What?
2026.
what?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my, yeah.
yeah.
I know.
And
it's-
the landing won't be now till 2027. So disappointing to hear that, but I think as one thing you're going to see as the new administration comes in, they're going to make a decision on Artemis as to, what should we continue with it?
and what's it going to look like?
What will that program look like? But we've got to go back to the moon.
Well,
no
there's
matter what.
Artemis 1 and
Yep.
the moon down there, some of the GoPros they
Yep,
had around
so-
it on there. Yeah, we're anxious to hear some of that stuff
And
too.
as we close out, we don't know when this is going to launch. This is the New Glenn,
Yeah,
ready for the first launch of Blue Origin's heavy lift rocket.
out on the pad
It's
right
on the
now.
pad right now. They're targeting, they say, at the end of this month, but I haven't seen anything definitive at this point. My guess is it might be they're probably going to wait till after the holidays, and
It's
start
on
off the new year
calendar.
well.
It might be the 16th.
It might be
is
the
what I'm
16th.
told. Some of the
I
space people
I
was
actually
with
reached
last
out
night.
to Blue Origin's media department to get on their list, and they send me updates, but I haven't seen any update lately.
Okay, I
Okay.
need to do that. All right.
And as we close out, we get to know a lot of astronauts.
Absolutely.
So we just want to pay tribute to those that we lost in 2024. And I know that
Name them off there.
yeah, so you've got Tom Stafford, You've got Joe Engel, Bill Anders, John McBride, and Richard Dick Truly.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
truly off your shoulder there.
Yeah.
What is interesting, Truly and Engel were STS-2 on Columbia. Engel was the commander, Truly was his pilot, and Truly, that was when we had a reusable spaceship.
Yeah.
When you take it up for the second time and bring it back. They died the same year. Of course, Engel bumped by right now Harrison Schmitt on the moon 52 years ago. Harrison's 89 years old.
Right.
And Bill
Ben
Anders.
was a plane crash. He was
Yeah.
still flying
Yeah.
airplanes.
They all lived into their
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
John, I don't think, was
No.
80 yet. But, God bless him. And of course, the general, Tom Stafford, lived on the Space
Well,
Coast here for years. So helpful to our American
met him
Space
many
Museum.
times. Yes. Yeah.
I've met him several times too. He would talk your ear off.
Yes.
I thought, wouldn't he?
Well,
You know,
a few years, it was 2017 at our ISDC. They gave an award to Tom Stafford, and that same year I got a volunteer award, and Tom Stafford came over to congratulate me afterwards. So that was pretty nice.
That's a pretty cool guy. And his Stafford Air and Space Museum. In
Never
his
been there.
hometown
Gotta make it
of
there.
Weatherford. Oh, you'll
Yeah,
love it.
I'll have to
It's
make it there
just
sometime.
less than an hour on I-40 from Oklahoma City on there. And we want to remind everybody, cheers,
Oh,
everybody.
let's do a closeout to
Do a closeout with the Tang here.
Yep.
Got our Tang to celebrate Apollo 17 on the moon. Go check it out when we get off here. Enjoy it over the weekend as Gene Cernan and Jack Schmitt just have a big time on the moon, singing and everything.
Let's
on
get
there.
back to the moon.
Marty, we have a question that you posed.
Yeah, when Apollo astronauts passed behind the moon, how long were they out of radio contact with the Earth? And Dean Babcock said 45 minutes.
Okay.
Steve Holcomb said 45 minutes. Gary Jarrell said 40 minutes. And our
I said
answer is-
35.
I said 55.
And it's 45.
It's 45. Okay.
It's about 45 minutes.
All right.
Very
Thank you,
good.
folks, for
Yeah.
chiming in on there. That's something we've just picked up here, and we'll go out here with this pretty picture I took of Space View Park there
Ah, nice. Yeah.
with the Apollo. I mean, I don't ever want anyone to forget man's greatest adventure.
Absolutely.
That America did it 6 times successfully in a 3.5-year period. And the Apollo, the Orion spacecraft is in its 13th year of development, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Uh,
we want some people on the moon.
We want to
but
go back to
before
the
we-
moon.
But
you
while
know.
I can still reason, while I can still remember it.
Well,
but-
I think we were defined by it in many respects.
yeah. we are.
And when I talk to students about it, it's just something in the history book that they can't relate to.
Right.
So
Well,
let's
it's
hope-
special for all of us. Marty, sorry to interrupt you there.
Oh,
You were
no
gonna say
problem.
Marty's LEM number 12 that he worked so hard on with all the 1,500 Grummies here on the Space Coast. It was over for them. And
yes,
they had to go find another job, and Marty was lucky to be part of our other legacy of America's
Right.
space program, the space shuttle and building the International Space Station. So, Marty, thank you for a great job on Streamlabs here today,
yes.
and dealing with me outside the office here, and everything come out real smoothly. Burt, my friend, always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark.
That you're
yes.
here. We look forward to you putting something together in January
Yeah.
again.
Hope everyone enjoyed
And,
the presentation.
we went a
tonight.
little bit long, but we want to do a couple astronaut birthdays and
Yeah.
celebrate with everybody the holidays here properly. So until tomorrow, I'm going to talk about Apollo 17 on the moon. Marty and I are going to look at those hold down situation on the Saturn V rocket a little bit better. So hope you'll join us then. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying, I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.
Sounds good. Everybody, take care.
Thanks, Bert.